first order of business, we're going to stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have a consent agenda this evening. Trust everyone has looked it over. Do we have any approvals?
I would move we approve the consent agenda.
I second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Item number 4 on the regular agenda, a presentation from Harvey County Health Department updating tobacco in the city parks policy. That would be Chris?
Yeah, I can just tee it up. You can come on up. We have a presentation from Harvey County Health Department. As you recall, we've discussed regulation of tobacco in city parks last spring and through the summer. And now we have a presentation and a possible example policy for the City Commission to consider. Don't need action tonight. Direction to staff would be appreciated after the presentation.
Thank you. Thank you all for giving me this time again. I came here a couple months ago to talk about tobacco-free parks, and had overwhelming support from many people. Some people against that I remember, maybe 2 or 3 people. And one of the questions that stuck with me was like, why do you want to work on that? Is it even important? There are so many things that you guys can be working on, and I agree. And I sat and thought about it and ask and you shall receive. I took my son to watch my husband play volleyball. It was an all-day event thing in Savory, Kansas, and it was an all-day event, and it was at a park, and the tent in front of me had this young mom, smoking and with her kids around, and I could smell it, and my son was with me, and he could smell it, and we like try to go away and whatnot, but we couldn't really drive back, and I was like, maybe I'm just gonna, just see where it goes. He had an asthma flare up, and he had to stay the whole day at home, and he missed school, and it is an important thing. So that's the first thing that I wanted to remind you all. I know there are so many other priorities, but this is a priority as a mother. I wish that our parks, and I know that this doesn't happen here in Newton, but I know that it could. So I am here to ask that you will consider helping us promote health in Newton. The second question that I got was, why not then just the playgrounds? And sure, as a parent, I would be very happy if the playgrounds were tobacco-free, but that's not everyone, right? So we have people with cancer, we have older people, and they would be exposed to that too. They are exposed right now to that. And so that is why I'm asking that it not be only for the playground. I know that if Lona from the aging department is watching, she would be happy if we considered the other populations. And then the third request that I can think about was that how it would look like. So KDHE provides these for free if you adopt the policy. And like I said before, we're not trying to make this punitive. We don't want to hurt anyone. We just want the culture change. And I know that that's something that you guys can help us with, is to make it not, so that people realize that it's not something that they should be doing near people that they love. So I don't know if anybody has any questions.
So is your ask then, no tobacco anywhere in the parks?
In the parks of Newton, yes. The policy that we had worked, that we showed before, excluded the golf park, the golf,
Golf course?
thank you,
Yeah.
the golf course. And I would be okay with that. I mean, if we wanted to protect everyone, that's fine. But if we could do all of the others, and then if we could maybe list all future parks, right?
Any park, which would include all the parks.
All the parks, including the new park to the Michael Rhodes Park, because that would be amazing if we didn't have that litter with the wildlife. That would be awesome.
I liked the example that you provided about Woodbine. I thought that was good.
Yes, I had some help.
Yeah, it's a pretty good policy, too. I liked it. The appropriate city-owned park land, park facilities, and open space will post the signage as well. So that kind of gives us the out for the golf course. Could there be some sort of a out given maybe during a larger event because of like a beer garden or something?
We could sure look at that for sure. And as pointed out, you know, this wouldn't necessarily criminalize tobacco use. It is voluntary compliance, but I
Right.
think, yeah, you'd want to set those parameters, and we could sure bring back a comparable resolution for your consideration, taking into any other thoughts you have as well.
Yeah, I think that'd be good.
Thought it was good.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Awesome.
Thank you all.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you very much. Okay, we have Holiday Inn Express. Chris, you're gonna,
Yeah, I'll just tee this up, and we've got Austin Parker, representative from Holiday Inn, who will give a presentation on the substance of the request. But essentially, there's going to be 3 items for the City Commission to consider. It's outlined in a memo. One is a resolution of intent to issue industrial revenue bonds for future action. The second is to receive a petition for a modification of the Holiday Inn CID. A CID is a community improvement district that collects extra sales tax to reimburse certain eligible costs. The city approved a CID with Holiday Inn in 2019, and now this petition asks to increase that amount of reimbursable expenses. Mr. Parker will give some details on that. And then finally, the resolution, it doesn't necessarily approve a change in the CID, but it notices up a hearing. So based on this presentation, if the City Commission were willing to go forward with considering an amendment to the CID, we'd ask you to approve the resolution as presented, which would provide the framework to notice up the hearing and come back to you with additional information. That being said, I'll hand it over to Austin. City staff's available for any questions as well.
Good evening, Commission. Thank you for your time. I'm not foreign to city council meetings. I think this is somewhere around my 700th. Usually sit on your side of the table representing cities or governments. So migrated to the private side. I'm a public servant and sit more often where Chris is at than not. So I inherently look at things from the other side of the table almost naturally, and then think about it from our perspective as the client I'm representing here tonight, Newton Hotel Investments. So I will tell you a little bit about this, and I did have the fortune to get to spend a little bit of time over at the Holiday Inn, and very familiar with it. I was just over there today. Basically where we're at is, it seems odd the way that this industry works, but every 5 years, if not 10, but every 5 to 10 years, a property has to go through a renovation. Okay, so they come through and they give us a list of to-dos, if you will. The list of to-dos in 2019, when we were originally looking at this, cost, I think, 1.2. Now it costs 1.5 with all the changes in the economy and everything that's come up. And basically those lists of to-dos is, how do we bring the Holiday Inn facility into modern compliance so that we're able to continue to lease out as a Holiday Inn? Now, if you were to go in the property, and anyone is welcome to come take a tour. Right, I was in one of the nicest rooms that we have today, and there's a hole in the door that's been patched. You know, part of the vanity is coming out of the side of the bathroom. Okay, the beds are tired, the carpet's tired, right? That happens. That's why they do these property improvement plans. There's only a couple different paths that a property goes down in this way, and I'm just giving this all as background. If we don't do the property improvement plan, then we click down a brand. And even there, we're still going to have a property improvement plan. Clicking down a brand decreases from a Holiday Inn. We're looking at, and I'm not trying to talk any other brands down, but there's some that come to mind. You see it along the highway. Okay, you were a Holiday Inn, now you're a Country Inn and Suites, or now you're a, I don't want to use the word, again, I'm not trying to talk any of these brands down. I'm just saying that they have a typically lower standard of operation and a lower standard of stay, okay, and a different type of clientele that they cater to. So what we're trying to do is maintain that level standard Holiday Inn Express and bring it up so that it looks like a new and modern Holiday Inn. To do that, there's going to be an investment of about $1.5 million total in the property. To date, we've put in about $270,000. We've updated some of the stuff that is, it's apparent, but it's not visually apparent when you walk in. The bulk of it that we're bringing in, all the rooms will look and feel brand new. You're going to see that. That's about $1.2+ million of work that needs to be done. There's been $63,000 of roof done, of work to the roof done. We are in Kansas, so these things happen fairly regularly. We've done that work in lead up to this. That's what the 3 action items that are before you. The amendment to the CID. CID was originally adopted in 2019 to provide a 1-cent sales tax. It's a revenue neutral item that does not affect any resident of the city of Newton. It's all transient, okay, in nature. That 1-cent sales tax is applicable to the hotel, and we use that to reimburse costs of renovation that we front up front. There's no bonding or anything that's done on behalf of the city regarding the CID. The IRB, it's really, and it's something that we're acquiring ourselves. The financing of it, it's still all done through Newton Hotel Investment, okay? What that does for us, though, is it gives us a sales tax abatement. So we save a little bit of money as we buy materials. That helps us bridge the gap, okay? Those are really the 2 items that we're looking at. So the amendment of the CID petition, that's just to increase it to modern standards from what it was 3 to 4 years ago, pre-COVID pandemic, when we were first looking at the renovation and then had to extend that timeline since everything slowed down and didn't move there. So that brings us up to now. And then the IRB is really, there's no property tax abatement that's requested. Okay, we didn't want to affect the city's property tax, right? We're not trying to take tax dollars off the table. What we're trying to do is make sure that we can financially invest and maintain a product at a high level that will meet the needs of the community for years to come. With that, stand for some questions. I won't just ramble.
What percentage of your stays have turned into long-term stays? We've seen an evident impact to our receipts off of that. So how can we resolve that?
Yeah, let me talk through what that's been like. Okay, so running into COVID, if you looked at, let's take Emporia, Kansas, for example. The entirety of the Hampton Inn shut down, and they only worked as a COVID relief shelter, and they stayed shut down for almost 24 months. So most of the hotels that we're in, and I'm fortunate, I've represented a majority of the hotel owners between, particularly for, what do they call them, limited service, mid-range to upper-range hotels. I guess that's sort of limited service to economy service hotel brands. But if you look at this all the way up the I-135 corridor, there was a significant hit between everything from Wichita to Salina in terms of revenue that happened. We were hitting 19% occupancy. It was bad enough during COVID that if you looked at Kansas City, they shut down the Sheraton in downtown Kansas City. They let the Westin stay open, and it had a 10% occupancy. So to survive, we went to long-term stays. And what's unique about what the ownership group was able to do there is that through long-term stays, even though they were in at right before the pandemic, most people that bought hotels right before the pandemic or relatively close before the pandemic, they went out of business. And because I represented a number of them, the hotels went back and they closed shop. So through long-term stays, they were able to bridge that gap. Now, right now, we've discontinued the last of that, so there's no more of those long-term stays that are present. So the transient guest tax, which is a concern to us as well, right? There was a collapse of that, and we don't like that because those long-term stays, they don't yield nearly the same revenue to us, and it's also a harder thing on our hotel. As you can imagine, if someone's there for a longer period of time, more of a mess, and it's just harder on our FF&E, fixtures, furniture, and equipment. So our goal is to move as much of that, and that's what we've done. We've moved that away. So we don't have those same types of long-term stays that are at the facility. Okay, so reducing that or eliminating that, that's a goal, and we've been successful in that. We will continue to be successful in that as we maintain the Holiday Inn Express brand. Barring another COVID situation, then we won't see a return to those long-term stays like that. And I mean, if you look at the other hotels, like the Hampton Inn that I'm talking about in Emporia, it's a return back to normal occupancy. And so I've been around this for quite some time. I'm not pointing out my mother was the property tax attorney for Sedgwick County till she retired in October. I think you started in '92, right? The COVID was the first time this had ever happened in any sense since you were working. Isn't that right? Yeah, it's just not. It's a phenomenon that we happen to be on the front end of, that we're now on the back end, and barring a world pandemic, we won't see that happen again. We don't make money that way. We don't want that. So
you're saying that no more long-term stay?
Well, that's our goal. Our goal is to not have long-term stays. There will still be some long-term stays, right? And that's just necessary because of an economy limited service stay hotel. If somebody comes into town, if they're going to do significant work on I-135, right, we're going to take that contract. We need that contract, and we want that business because driving that revenue, those people need to stay in Newton, right? We don't want to lose them to McPherson, okay?
But our economy also needs to have hotel rooms available for people coming in
Right.
to play ball or coming in to see grandkids graduate and everything. So is there a percentage that you'd be willing to put some sort of cap on, no more than X number of rooms?
Well, our goal is that we always have 30% of our rooms available for transient, okay? And if you look at our hotel size, that's pretty, that is pretty consistent. We can deliver that, okay? Our goal is that we never have less than 30% available for transient, okay? And that means even if we have 3 road crews that come in that need to do significant work, or we're doing significant work on the railroad line, and we've got 8 or 10 weeks that they're just going to stay booked in, we don't lose that revenue, but we still have turnover revenue for nights. We want the turnover revenue, right? So our goal is that we have no less than 30% of our rooms available at all times for transient. We don't even want to have, I mean, I can tell you that I've talked to the ownership. We want 100% of our rooms to be transient because we make so much more money off of that. But also, if we can't afford to turn down, we can't send to McPherson all long-term stay contracts like that. And the good news is that most of those contracts moving forward, the reason why this hasn't been a problem before is that you don't have 7-day stay contracts. Usually it's Monday to Friday, like on that work contract, but everybody sees it. You know, if you drive the highway up and down, you see the crews working on Saturday night or Sunday night, and they will, if in crunch time, they'll book several weeks, right, where they just need people to have that room and it needs to be stable for them. So that's why we can't eliminate the long-term stays, but our goal is to always have at least 30% for transient up to 100, and we want to accommodate all those ball games. That's where we make our money.
Right. Well, the 7 days aren't the problem. The problem is the 28 plus.
Oh, yeah. And that's never been something in the industry that has been, nobody does that. And that's only happened because of COVID. Nobody in the Holiday Inn, the High X brand level, that's not consistent with the High X. I mean, that's not something that's done.
Well, I guess I'm skeptical at best. You know, I'd like to see
Right.
the numbers in the next quarterly receipts, you know, show that those tax numbers are coming back. I mean, we're looking at 89,000 for last year versus, you know, 169,000 pre-COVID.
Right.
You know, and we're only at 25,000 halfway through the year for this year.
Well, we're working on it. I can tell you that, but I can also tell you that if we don't do this, and we bump down to, if we can't do this and we can't keep at a Holiday Inn Express,
It'll go down too.
Oh, yeah, it's going to get, and the property tax figures, right now, our property tax is fairly consistent at the Holiday Inn level, but it's valued on the income approach, and I know that if we can't keep this, then we're probably at a Country Inn, if not a Baymont, and those you'll see a 50% reduction in property tax. So that's why we're so focused on if we can keep the value of the Holiday Inn Express flag there, that also drives our nightly room stays. Because the reason why we care about Holiday Inn Express, while we love the folks at Holiday Inn Express, we wouldn't pay our franchise fees, which I think are 6% of the operating usually. We wouldn't pay that if they didn't give us a reservation system, okay? Because so they draw in the nightly stays. And to a certain extent, they also help us with contracting to make sure that we can get in repeat customers. So that's kind of the chicken and the egg, right? And I wish it wasn't that way, but we are shooting for 30%. I fully expect us to do better than that, but keeping that in mind, and also I've had extensive conversations with the owner on the transient guest. It's obvious we want to see that number go back up, and that's why we just ended all of our. Literally, the contract ran out on the last of the long-term stays, so you should see that number recover.
Can you tell me why? Like first quarter 2022, we received $44,000 from your hotel and transient tax, and only $4,200 in the first quarter of 2023. Second quarter of 2022 is $36,700, and the second quarter of 2023 was only $8,900. So if you're trying to get out of the long-term stays, that's $80,000 compared to $12,000 for the first 2 quarters of the year.
The first 2 quarters of the year is when hotels lose money, particularly limited extended stay. We make money over the summer. So if you're looking at winter numbers, right, it's difficult to make.
But we're comparing winter with winter.
I understand, but I'm just trying to relay a little bit of. Now, I don't have the specifics why we had a 2023 contract versus 2022. I can tell you that if you walked into the hotel right now, I'm not trying to be elitist, but I don't think that most people would want to stay long-term in the hotel without a property improvement plan. You're not going to pay Holiday Inn value to stay there. And so I do think that part of what you're seeing is an overall, also, just to be, totally transparent about it, and I'm not trying to talk, I don't want to promote McPherson, because that's not why I'm here tonight, but I did represent the hotel owner there. Mm-hmm. They did bring on, in the last 24 months, a brand new Fairfield Inn and Suites. And that's 24 miles north of here. Okay, so if I'm looking at it, and I have a brand new Fairfield Inn and Suites, I have a Hampton Inn that I've stayed in the last 12 months, and it looks outstanding. Okay, and I believe there's a Holiday Inn there as well. I've got 3 properties that are price competitive for here, and I've got to pay a premium to stay here, and the hotel hasn't been renovated in 5 or 6 years. Versus I just go up there. I know that is a component that we have to fight. That's why we have to make sure we get the property back up to snuff.
Right,
So
and I think the long-term stays turned that hotel into a barracks.
I
That's why
completely,
rooms have suffered from that.
I completely agree. And and quite frankly, if we did not have, had we not gone through COVID, we wouldn't be talking about long-term stays. And that's what's happened. That's why, and quite frankly, that's why they stopped doing the renovation. Right? Not only could we not find crews, but also if the long-term stays are what's keeping it so that it doesn't go into receivership, right? Which is the reality of what happened. And we're going to have to clean the whole property up, right? We don't want to clean. We're not going to spend $1.3 million cleaning a property up to ruin it. And that we don't want it to turn into a barracks. There are other hotels that are available for that, right? We're a premium product, and we're the best product. I would argue we are the best product between McPherson and inside of Wichita, okay, down into the downtown. And so we draw that crowd, and we want to continue to draw that crowd. That's why we did not do $1.1 million of renovations during the extended stays. That's why we got them out, and we don't want them. I'm not trying to say we don't take contracts, but we don't want that back. We want to survive and thrive moving into 2024 and 25.
Please know we're very pro-business.
Oh, sure.
We just want you to know that we know that things went south for a little while, and it hadn't been good for us either. And we also realized that there's, without supporting you on this renovation, that there's probably not much chance we're going to pick up in our transient guest tax income either, so. But, you know, we're very data-driven.
Yes.
And, you know, hopefully we'll see these numbers. Yeah. So you might tell them we're a little bit sensitive about,
Needs to turn around.
yeah.
Yes, and I do want to commend you that you have, I'm not just saying this because I could just not say something and say thank you very much. Newton has done a very good job at being very pro-business, and that has, from someone that's also in the government side but migrated towards the development side, that reputation has filtered out, and you are seeing effects from that throughout the state, because it is a statewide known quantity that Newton is pro-business, and that is, I do think that you are seeing, even as far north as Kansas City, that conversation is had. So I wanted you to know that, because it's something to commend yourselves on.
Thank you.
Basically, you're asking us to trust what you're telling us, that, you know, that in the future, these numbers are going to increase. And I agree that we're probably going to have to do this if there's any chance of it increasing in the future.
Right.
However, I agree, I'm a bit skeptical too, but you haven't given us anything tangible we can hang our hat on. I'd like to see that number of 30% increase to, say, no less than 50%. But you're telling us that 30% is the threshold.
I think 30% is the threshold, because, I mean, think about it. If we had 3 crews that came through, right, then we've got a problem. We got to house them. We don't want to lose that revenue. We can't afford it.
Can you clarify the numbers in this memo? You're talking about 1.3 as a cap.
Yeah, 1.3 was the original cap in the
Okay.
CID. The amendment that they're requesting is to increase it
To
to.
1.7.
That's right.
Okay. Okay, well, it kind of speaks like it's in the current, in the future, on the 1.3. It says it establishes a cap up to. So, but you're saying that is the original.
I'm sorry for wording it like that,
No.
right? Just for
That's-
clarity, right? The original
Okay.
CID that is in effect has a cap of approximately 1.3.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, that's good, that's fine, just clarification
For
is
sure.
all that's necessary. Thank you.
I mean, it's a 2% sales tax.
Right.
Yes.
Only on the transients.
No,
not
well,
on-
so 2% sales tax, all encompassing the
on-
entire district.
Yeah. But the only real property in that district that generates sales tax is the
right,
hotel.
right.
So,
And the Huddle House for about 6 months.
yeah, well, these things happen.
The blink of an eye,
right.
and it was gone.
It's not the only huddle house this happened to, so.
Other than the sales tax, Chris, there's no financial impact to the city. I mean, the loss of sales tax we've talked a lot about long-term stay versus short-term, but other than that, issuing the IRB or the change in modification, there's no,
No, the IRB,
Yeah,
that's a good
the gas
point.
tax,
And
yeah.
yeah, Austin raised it, it was in the memo, but there is no property tax abatement through the IRBs. It would only be the sales tax exemption. And through the agreement, the developer would pay for the cost of issuance on the IRBs. In terms of the CID, I think Donna can speak to it, but there is some sort of administrative fee that the city collects on the CID.
We collect 5% each
the
month. Every time
CID.
we get their collection from the state, we send it out to them, and we get 5% of that as administrative fee.
So any materials purchased for the improvement would receive the sales tax
Exemption.
So we're giving up our sales tax
on those
that.
items.
on
Get
those
a
items.
chance to
But
have more
the
revenue.
reality that what percentage would be purchased from our companies and from,
Unfortunately, we have to, I can answer that. Unfortunately, we have to order Holiday Inn strict. We have to order the stuff from Holiday Inn, so it's really a negative, it's a neutral. We can't really,
that's
Probably
where I
won't
was
get
going
it
with that.
anyway.
We're not going, we're not going to have B&B Lumber get all of the,
No.
yeah.
or lose out on the sales tax. So I
So
think
we've already
that's neutral.
approved the up to 1.3, but they're asking for a change to 1.7.
That's on the CID, right, exactly.
And they're going to do this time? They're
Oh,
gonna
yeah,
get
no,
it
we're
done?
doing it, we're doing it As soon as this is in place, immediately. And we have to do it. The good part that you'll know, how everyone got more flexible in COVID-19 because of brand standards. This is also another thing for you to feel some comfort about. Okay, Holiday Inn is not in the business of long-term stays, right? You walk in the door of a Holiday Inn, they're not there, particularly in their Express brand product. They don't put up with that, okay? This was a one, and Mom, you've been dealing with this since '92. They never, no. And there's a thing, it's brand standards, okay? So they were doing long-term stays in Marriott products, okay? Everybody was doing it to survive the pandemic, but it is not a model that is consistent with the Holiday Inn flag. In fact, they have other products that are their version of an extended stay America product that they push towards that, okay? And it's a whole different run rate, whole different product, whole different level of furniture, and this hotel is not even equipped for that. It's not, it is not being renovated to facilitate long-term stay, okay? So it's a brand standards thing, okay, that you can also look back at and rely on, and at the same time, those brand standards are the ones that are controlling how we bring this property up to standard. Because Holiday Inn's going to look at it, and they have to give their stamp of approval that we hit current brand standards so that it's going to look and feel like a brand new Holiday Inn. So when we walk away from the final day of renovation, it will look like a brand new Holiday Inn. That's what you will have.
I would agree. I think you said it. I think you ought to at least try to push for 50%.
Oh, we would.
I mean, if 30% is like, at least make an effort.
We
Oh,
want
no.
you to survive
Yep.
too, though.
I know,
Yeah.
but
We want that. I mean, to be honest with you, if you look at the, I don't want to get in too much into the weeds in the business, but if you look at the business over the last 5 years with the margins in economy or limited service stay hotels, 10, 15 years ago, the margins were there. Now, right, and nothing against property tax or any of that, Kansas is one of the most difficult states to operate a hotel in because of the way that we deal with property tax, right, which is fine. That's just a majority of the margin. If you look at it now, the margin is even post post-COVID recovery, particularly because the financing rates are so high. We're operating on the thinnest margins that we've operated on without a pandemic since the 90s. Okay, so we want as many non-long-term stays as we can, right? Because that drives up our nightly average daily rental rate. And don't get me wrong, the hotel pencils, it's fine, right? There's a reason why the hotels are working, but we don't want extended stay. We want transient guests. We just want to be able to survive too. So
What's the order of events?
Well, the first item is the resolution of intent for the issuance of the IRBs, and as I referenced before, this is not approving the issuance of the IRBs, it's simply your resolution of intent to go forward. It will come before the City Commission for formal adoption of an ordinance after the project's been completed.
And I would ask if there's any other questions of me, because I don't know if I'll get to be here on that December night. I have a little one that's at home that's fairly new.
It's what grandmas are for.
I know. Grandma's supposed to be babysitting, but I don't know. I want to make sure if there's any other questions on this that we address them if we can.
We want to be your partner, so don't be surprised if the numbers don't go up, if we don't come out and see what's going on.
Yeah.
Please do.
Yeah.
We
I mean, we care about every business in Harvey County, and the reality of it all with some of the building that's getting ready to start happening, maybe next summer, it's just going to exacerbate the problem because those people are going to need a place to stay. So,
Absolutely.
So do we need an approval for item A?
Motion to approve the resolution, should you wish to go forward.
I'll make a motion for A.
One second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that
Is there
passes.
a resolution number for that?
Denise, gotcha.
I gotcha. Do you want that now?
Yeah.
Okay. It's G1322.
The second is simply to receive the modification to the CID that was in your agenda packet and outlined the numbers associated with Austin's presentation.
I would move we receive the petition for the modification of the CID.
I'll second that.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes.
And the third item is the resolution that just provides notice of a public hearing to consider the modification of the CID, at which time you could formally approve the CID after a public hearing.
And that has a date on it?
It does. I believe it's the end of November. Is that right?
Said
I thought
November 28th.
November 28th.
Yeah.
That resolution number is G-1323.
I would move we approve -G-1323, resolution to provide notice of public hearing for the modification of the Holiday Inn Express
I'll second.
CID.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes. Okay, thank you.
You
Good
did a
evening.
job.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
all.
In front of your mother, no less.
Oh, yeah, well, thank you so much. This won't be the last time you see me. I'll be back, so.
Okay. Okay, item number 6, Fox Ridge Edition, Rebecca and Chris.
I'll go ahead and start us off. So as you may remember, that the Kansas Housing Resources Corporation issues multiple requests for proposals throughout the year for their moderate income housing grants. What you have before you today is for the property out at the Fox Ridge Edition. You all supported a resolution in support of moderate income housing with Kansas Housing Investor Tax Credit applications for a portion of the property in the R3 zone here on the map, which is in blue. They were not awarded those applications for either portion, either the moderate income housing or the Kansas Housing Investor Tax Credit in the May round. They were approached, and the city was as well, to reapply, but they wanted a larger density in the application. So in this application, the apartment building, which you'll notice on the screen there in the blue R3 zone, which is a zone for that multifamily unit. I don't know if I can get my pointer to work here, but, oh, no. Was not that one. We won't use it. It's that large rectangular box there is
Use your
on the plat. Thank you. Right here, which is where TOB LLC is asking for our partnership at an MIH grant. They'll be asking for up to $600,000 for those units. We're still in talks with Kansas Housing Resources Corporation on how many of the units to include. There will be quite a number of. It will be a 120-unit complex. So they have 1, 2, and 3-bedroom units starting at $850 a month, going up to $1,900 a month for the 3-bedroom units. As you might remember, moderate income housing has a 150% of the poverty level threshold. So that would allow a family of 4 to make over $95,000 a year and qualify to be in a moderate income housing unit. So that is one of the resolutions before you. The second one is for just the Kansas Housing Tax Credit Investor, which allows a tax credit of up to $30,000 for up to 31 units for that total of 930,000 units. Those will be on the bottom portion here in the R3 zone, right in here, through Brian Legali of Brian Legali Homes. I stand for any questions.
You can come up if you're here to speak on it.
Thank you. My name's Mike Lloyd, and I live in the neighborhood close to the Fox Ridge Addition. And I'd like to express my concerns about this request. And actually, there's 2 concerns I have, as well as some of our neighbors. And one is regarding this request for additional, the R3 designation, and the increased density up there in that, as you pointed out, in that blue zone, the larger area up here. And it appears that some of us in the neighborhood were misled from the beginning from these developers as to what they intended in this development. And so originally it wasn't the number of the apartment units that was proposed. And it was more single-family as well as the duplex. But we're starting to see the developers request more of the R3 designation. And that is a concern for myself as well as some of our neighbors as well. How it can impact the quality of life in that area as well as the quality of life of residents who will be moving into this development as well with the increased density of the housing. So.
I'd just like to respond to that. The R3 zoning on this is not changing. It has been that way, and this portion was marked on the plat originally. Suzanne, it's been quite some time now.
Yeah,
as an
and
apartment
you
complex.
there has been some discussion recently at the Planning Commission for R3 zoning that would be in the kind of yellow area there.
This-
But the developer has changed that request, and at the next Planning Commission meeting, they will be stating they only are asking for R2 for the duplexes. So tonight, this city commission is not looking at a new zoning, is not looking at a rezoning.
Okay, so you're saying that there was no change
There's
as to that R3?
Yeah, correct. Tonight, there is no discussion or consideration of a zoning change.
And-
Okay,
And this R3 designation for this area has been here for how long?
When the development
Since
came
the
in,
original plan,
yeah.
when the
Okay.
plat-
When it came through Planning Commission.
Okay.
The one that a bunch of folks have been discussing has been for the west half, and they did request an R3, but they've changed their request to R2. But that is not what they're talking about this evening. It'll be at the Planning Commission meeting in November.
okay, so again, the developers aren't looking to make a change in their request from the R2 to the R3, you believe?
The blue area is R3. It's not being, it was R3 from the beginning, and that big square that she just pointed
Right.
to is where they had talked about an apartment complex all along.
Mr. Lloyd?
Yep.
Mike? The discussion this evening is the RHID, the property or the parcels that were part of the original RHID. They're changing which parcels will be part of the new RHID request. And then they're moving away from having the duplexes because it didn't have enough density of units in order to be approved for the RHID deal. So they're saying, okay, disregard, and we're going to resubmit using the apartments rather than the duplexes. There's no change to zoning. There's no change to original plan or anything. It's purely the budgeting side and their request for RHID grants from the state.
And just to clarify, we are looking at a moderate income housing grant, which is the NMIH.
MIH.
RHID is a slightly different tool, but
Right.
so many acronyms, hard to keep them
But
straight.
it's the financing side of the house that's changed, not the plan, not what's
And
going in.
That's what the concern was, how, what further changes in the plan might be ahead, so.
And that's what I was hearing.
So the R2 for the duplexes will stay as planned?
Well, it's a separate matter
it's a
outside
separate
the scope.
issue.
Yeah, outside the scope tonight. It's
Yeah.
It would-
Well, yeah, and if, again, I'm stating my opinion as well as some other neighbors. Are we giving tax incentives to these developers when they're making changes to the original proposals?
That discussion where they requested the R3 that's changing to an R2, the Planning Commission tabled it, and I believe they're going to hear it again on November the 6th. And as I understand it, the developer has requested R2, so that meeting would be held right here too, so you could come to that one and speak.
And I think that would ease some concerns if it does stay as R2 rather than,
That would
Go
be
to
the
the-
west half of the development that you see on the screen,
correct. I mean, that would be,
the yellow area.
Rebecca,
Right,
can
the
you
yellow
outline that area
Yeah.
a little bit so he can see?
Okay.
Maybe that area.
Huh?
And it's just asking her to outline that area.
Yeah,
so he
there,
can see
Rebecca's
where
kind of
it's at.
showing you with the
Right there.
cursor.
It's really tiny.
I know.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
where the cursor is, that
Yeah.
would be the R2 that they'll be looking at the
Kind of on the
planning
inside loop, that road that's
Yeah.
on the inside loop, that would be east of the houses along Kansas.
Right.
Yeah. But the west half of the development.
Right. Because, yeah, this R3, as I understand, that would be bordering Kansas Avenue, is that right?
Well, that was the previous ask. That's not what they're talking about today. The blue has always been R3.
But
They
that's
were-
why you're here, because
Yeah.
you heard that. And-
Yeah.
And now that's gone.
Yes, that was discussed at the planning commission. They tabled it because I think the planning commission wasn't comfortable to approve it. And the
Yeah, they
developer.
requested additional
Yeah, and so the developers reviewed it, and they have told staff that they are only requesting an R2, and that will be taken to the planning commission on November, I think, 6th, I said, whatever the
Okay.
Monday is.
Well, that addresses
Okay.
our question.
So you're here for the right reason. Your timing was a little bit off.
It's not the first time. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So we have 2 resolutions to consider.
Yes.
Can you give us resolution number on
Sure.
A?
It would be G-1324.
I'll make a motion that we approve resolution G-1324, showing our support for the moderate income housing application.
Go ahead.
I second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that passes.
We're going to guess the next one is
1, 2, 3,
1325.
5. Yeah.
You would be correct.
Okay.
G-1325.
I would make the motion that we approve Resolution G-1235, resolution to support the KHITC application for Fox Ridge.
Got a lot of things right, but you got the 2 and the 3 backwards. 1325.
That's what I said. Yeah.
We're going to go with, I'm going to second what Rod meant versus what he said. So,
All right, there is a
1325.
motion and a second. Any
Always
further
been bad
discussion?
numbers. Yeah.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that passes.
Thank you.
Next
Baseball.
up, item number 7, we're going to receive a proposal from the Newton Rebels, Kansas Collegiate League Baseball. Zach?
Yeah, I'm going to welcome Sheldon and David to the podium. And for those curious, it is 1-1 in the top of the third in Game 7 currently right now. So there's your score update.
Good evening. My name is Sheldon Howell. I appreciate you guys taking the time to allow us to come and chat with you for a little bit. I am the commissioner and owner of Kansas Collegiate League Baseball. We are a collegiate baseball league that plays during the summer times. We currently have 8 organizations in our league, and we are here to talk about a possible city partnership with all of you in the community of Newton to possibly revamp and kind of revitalize the collegiate baseball team that you guys have had here in the summertime. So super excited about it, and excited to kind of talk about our vision and some of the things that we've been able to do in the past, and what we would like to implement and try to do here. So hopefully everybody has been able to see the proposal and just some of the information that we had out and put out to you guys. But I'll answer any questions as we go along. But the KCLB was founded, we were in 1999, so we've been around for a little while. I have been working the KCLB since about 2015. Previously, I played and I also coached and managed inside of the league. So been around this circuit, if you will, for a little while now, so relatively versed in the growth and what we've been trying to do over the last roughly 5-6 years. We've started some new organizations around the state of Kansas. Some of our places that we have organizations in, we have Wellington, Winfield, El Dorado, Park City, Valley Center, just to name some of them. So kind of our business model is we go into some of the smaller communities that are kind of centered around the Wichita, Kansas and greater Wichita, Kansas area, and try to provide a fun, family-friendly spectator baseball experience in the summer months. And if you know anything about collegiate summer baseball, we fill a big void for collegiate programs, and that is really ultimately our purpose, because college programs have a lot of guys, and those those guys need to continue playing baseball in the summertime if they want to stay fresh and stay sharp on their skills. So that's kind of where our purpose comes from, is we find and create schedules for those guys to be able to continue to play baseball through the summertime when the colleges cannot work with them, and with their rules and regulations, they can't do things with them. So they play summer baseball, and then we hopefully send them back to their college programs excited, on fire, and ready to go play for their college teams. So that's kind of the premise behind what collegiate baseball is in the summer and kind of some of the areas that we're at. But we're here to propose a night to have a partnership with you guys. We would like to, again, kind of revamp and kind of revitalize some of what you guys have done in the past. I was actually contacted in the middle of June by the Newton Rebels and some of the staff that they had here this last summer and asked me to kind of sit down, and we came out to some games. We sat down, had some sit-down meetings with them as well too, just to walk through some of their struggles and some of the things that they, kind of falling short in certain areas. And we thought that we could help, and thought that we would be able to kind of, hit the ground running and really try to implement our systems here. And so that's what kind of led us to where we are today, and trying to, continue down the path and be able to bring something exciting for Newton baseball here in the summer. So our partnership that we have kind of proposed in here has a couple of different things to it, and I'm sure there'll be some questions, so I'll answer, but I'll kind of breeze through it. One of our big things with all of our programs that we offer, and it kind of encompasses spectator baseball, is we ask the cities that we partner with for a CMB license to sell cereal malt beverage at the ballpark. We've accomplished this and successfully have ran this in 5 different locations for a few different years now, so we've been doing it, understand the protocols of what needs to be done to do it, understand how to staff it accordingly, and understand just pretty much all the pieces for it. So for us, it's a very important thing, because we would like to be able to have people come out, enjoy themselves, right, responsibly, but come out to the ballpark, have a beer, hang out with their families, and then be able to go home. Provide some sort of entertainment in the summer months for families to come out, get kids involved, do free kids camps, give back to the community, things of that nature. With that commitment, that being a piece of it anyway, the other is the financial side of it. So we have put in here in the proposal of a $10,000 ask over 2 years of operation, so that payment can be broken up however means necessary. That would allow us to kind of, again, hit the ground running with some of the upfront expenses to really try to revitalize the team and push it in the right direction. Providing new uniforms, doing some City Connect uniforms with you guys to represent the city. We have examples of those, and we have all kinds of stuff that we've done as far as design and those types of things. But in return with that, we would have 2 free kids camps that we would offer in the summer times. We do those in all of our cities that we're a part of. Partner with the Rec Commission, try to market through them and do different things there. And then on top of that, with City and Rec employees, right, we would create season passes for everybody from the city to be able to come out and enjoy the game, maybe throw out a first pitch, right, have some sort of entertainment piece out there to try and get that city involvement and bring the community out to support the team. And then we would like to obviously look at some more long-term options after we kind of prove our proof of concept and show you guys that, what we say we're going to do, we are going to do. So we would discuss that, after that time frame. But we would look to partner concession stand stuff with Parks and Rec or, another deserving, type of organization. Certain places we've done, different things. We've partnered with Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, things like that. Other nonprofits that we can try and give, funds back to help their causes as well too. Get them involved out at the fields, doing different things. Youth baseball teams, youth softball teams. We do give back nights, things like that. And then the last piece of it is doing some sort of kind of a profit share. We propose doing a 10% gate and beer profits back to the city, just as, kind of a thank you, if you will, but then also that way we are invested with one another to continue to try and grow, keep trying to put a good product out onto the field and continue to, be competitive, but continue to, represent the city the way that you guys would like it to see it represented. So that kind of runs through, kind of the big pieces there. Wanted to kind of just breeze through it. Hopefully you guys have some questions for us, because we would really enjoy trying to, sift through those and find ways to work together.
Now, are you asking for $10,000 per year or $5,000 to total 10 over 2 years?
Correct. $10,000 in total over a 2-year time frame. Everywhere is a little different on how they do their budgeting based on when it's put together, so we would be open to be flexible with that based off of whatever your guys' needs would be.
Now, as far as that the city would take care of the field expenses, the rec center does that now, do they not?
That's
Suzanne?
correct,
So,
yes.
yeah, that's,
They would
So-
continue to
they
do
would
that.
continue to do that, I assume.
And we've met with the rec already yesterday. They're going to kind of work through what that's going to look like, probably come first of the year is kind of what he told us, which is perfectly fine. And, you know, whatever they were able to come up with and whatever our responsibilities would be, we have no problem doing that side of it. We'll have 30 to 35 able bodies, so we can definitely do some manpower and some work. Another kind of just random note, I guess, but if the city has anything as far as employers, you know, we would like to get our guys jobs here when they come to Newton as well, too. That's always a big thing, but.
A quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
Because the NRC is planning to charge for field use this year, the board was discussing that at their board meeting on Friday. So there could be a fee that would be charged, and so there's some things in the proposal that the NRC may need to approve as well. And one other issue, you did state that you like to make your schedule out in October, but I know the NRC doesn't schedule until January because American Legion Ball is
Correct.
given priority. So
Yep.
January is okay with you to get a schedule?
Our schedule's already made, but I've already spoken with Mark George on what he does as scheduling, and I've already worked around it. So once he finalizes, if we need to mix
You can
anything,
shift.
it's not a problem.
Okay,
Yeah.
very
We do ours that early, mainly because of all of the field locations typically have something of that sort. So it's easier for us if we get it done ahead of time. So that way, if we need to move things around, we still have plenty of planning time to be able to do it.
Okay.
So.
Are you asking for money from anyone else in the community, like rec commission, municipal entities?
We haven't yet. So this is really kind of our first stop, if you will. You know, because for us, you know, our big thing, if we're going to come in and be involved, you know, there's going to be some changes with the organization that is currently happening right now, right? Doesn't mean that we're, you know, trying to block anybody out from the, honestly, we're looking to partner with everybody that's currently in the organization and just try to make sure that it survives. You know, I don't know how much you guys know of the team or the logistics behind it, but it's been up and down, but it's been pretty rough as of late. And obviously, I think that's probably the reason they reached out in the first place, which is fine. But our goal is to take the good things that have been happening and make those things better, but then also come in with some structure and come in with some system to it that's working for us and all of our other small communities that brings some stability to it and allows us to be able to operate that way. You know, for us, we're front side, full-time focused on this. I mean, this is what we do. We've created a system that we believe works in small communities, and we've shown a good proven track record that it will. You know, and that, at points in times, that takes some change, right? There's a little bit that goes into that. The way that collegiate summer baseball ran even a short 5 to 10 years ago when I was playing is way different than how it is now. And part of that comes from the differences in the way that the players are and what they expect and what they're wanting to do. So we've just tried to adapt with that and be able to stay on the front side of all of that change. So if we're able to, you know, put all of that foundation in place, right, and we know that the city is behind us in that process, then our goal would be to, one, take into consideration what any of the city wants might be, right? You know, and whether that be, you know, it's had a team name for a long time. You know, if you guys want that team name, we're all about that. If it's something that you guys want a fresh start and you might want to look at something different, we're all about that as well, right? We want to have a true partnership with the community. We want to give back to the community because ultimately, without the sense of community behind what we do, it's not possible. And, you know, we have a great host family connection. You know, we've worked on that, and, you know, we think we can do that here as well too. It'll take legwork, and it's going to take some work here in the off season to make happen. But I've already kind of precursored and done quite a bit of some of that legwork, not everything, but I have staff ready to go. I have recruiting that's already starting. So the baseball operation is already going. Because if we didn't get started, we'd be way, way behind. Right. So, into fall baseball for colleges is right now. So, if you haven't had those conversations yet, or you're not doing it, you're in some hot water. You're going to be in trouble.
The reason I ask is I would like to see this happen.
Yeah.
But we're real likely. We always look for financial partners.
Yes, sir.
The city may not contribute the whole thing. So,
understood. Yeah.
So do you have any idea how much total money you're going to need from the Newton community to make it work?
Oh,
roughly.
That's probably for year one, year two. That rough $10,000 mark is where we would like to see from community support.
Yeah.
Right. That gives us a foundation to be able to do the small things that make it more of a professional kind of front, if you will. And if we can get that, then that relieves some of that pressure on the front end and allows us to start focusing on year three, even though we're in year one, kind of a deal. So we're always future thinking. We're always trying to put that foundation in place to be able to do that. And if it has to come from other areas, not a problem at all. I don't think that we're afraid to do that legwork, and we'll. We're willing to make those things happen for sure.
I went to not a lot of games last year, but I did the year before, and the attendance is never has been. 15, 20 people.
Yeah.
Maybe 30 on a good game.
Yeah.
What do you guys do differently?
Yeah, there's a lot of things. One being kind of what I had in the proposal. The CMB is a big piece of that. I would say in the locations where we were at without CMB, and then we were able to acquire the CMB and have some structure behind that and put it in the right spot and do some things. We probably saw, on average, I think across our league, our lowest attended team last year was probably roughly 100 people a game. Right, rough estimate. And I would say, per example, in El Dorado, El Dorado, they started with a CMB the entire time, I guess, so that's not the best example. But Winfield, for example. Winfield, we were there, didn't have a CMB at the start, went from around that 85 to 100 mark to last year, we probably averaged 220-ish at the games. Give or take what we were doing with the community, right? If we had a spotlight that night or we were doing something to honor someone, we do a lot of stuff with military is a big thing for us. So we do a lot of, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the War Dogs. They're a USA military team. They actually do a tour with my league in the summertime. So they would actually come here. We do a big partnership with the American Legions, all the posts, all the different places, historical societies, things like that. And, so we have them come out. We honor, last year what was the name of their? Hope for the Warriors. That was their cause. So we do things like that, and we do different things to try and engage with the communities and be able to have them come out. So CMB is a big part of that because it just goes with baseball, right? They can come out, they can have a couple drinks, they can go home, everybody's safe, family friendly, no problems. Another example, because this is always kind of a pointed topic, like in Wellington, for example, I've been operating there for a little while, they had kind of a beer garden section that was kind of off down the field kind of by itself. And there's nothing wrong with the location of it or anything, but it kind of turned into kind of slightly a rowdy kind of spot at points in times, right? And so we've implemented some different policies, done some different things to try and keep that to a minimum, one. But two, we're more about family-friendly things, right? Like, how can we get kids involved at the ballpark, right? How can we do that? So we started to implement different things with that kind of drew people out of that area and more into the game, right? We want it to be about the game. We want it to be about the players, right? Let's get them on the field and let's have fun. Let's do different little in-between inning things, stuff like that. So we saw a massive change there, and we saw more kids and more families with 2 or 3 children come out. They'd enjoy themselves until it got dark outside. Then they'd go home. perfectly fine by us. We'll play until 10 o'clock at night. I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. They aren't staying up past 7:30, 8 o'clock. So, I get it. And, our big thing is trying to implement more of that, right? Making it more fun there. But having both is really where you see the bread and butter. I mean, that's where you really get both ends of spectator baseball, but then you also get family fun, and then you pair those two things together, and now you're on the right track. So I mean, it's partially that, but a lot of community partnerships. I mean, that's our big thing, doing different community initiatives, getting out, putting our face out there, and we do it in all the places that we do. Like, that's what I mean. We're a year-long thing. I mean, we aren't just here in June and July and then you don't see us, right? We're going to be around the community doing different things, like trying to implement all of these strategies that we work on.
So
Yes, sir.
I would encourage you to go in front of the county commission and make a similar ask, maybe a couple thousand from them, a couple thousand from us, maybe in front of the USD 373 school board, same
Okay.
thing.
Yep,
I mean, they're feeding students out of the high school that want to play baseball.
fair enough.
So there's 3 entities right there.
Yep. Will do.
Yeah, we would probably, yeah.
Any other questions?
Can you guarantee us a winning season?
No, I cannot. I wish I could, though, yes. We will be competitive, though, I can tell you that. With the staff that I already have kind of in place that have worked with me in the past, I mean, they understand the ropes of what it takes to do what we do in the summertime. The staff that I would actually be implementing here would be a 3rd or 4th year staff with me. So they would be kind of migrating here with us with the operation. So that side of things would be exciting. And, they would be excited about it as well, being in the community. One of them actually didn't live here before he started working for KCLB. He ended up moving here to the Wichita area. I helped him get a job at Friends, so he's coaching at Friends University. So he's going to be involved. And so he's a local guy, to the area, and he'd be out here with us, talking and things like that once we get kind of down that road. So.
If you're
Question.
hiring mascots, I think somebody might be
Yeah.
in.
Well, I will say our first 2-year proposal doesn't have that in there, but after our 2-year, that is something.
Free. Yeah.
For an example, in El Dorado, they kind of just to pure example, but they've kind of gone all in behind the team. They bought a mascot, and after that mascot, I mean, first of all, the mascot goes to all city events. It goes to the parades. It goes to the schools. It hangs out. Like, it has a good time. And they saw their attendance increase from about 220-ish to over 400 last summer. So
Well, I'm not running again to be on the city commission, so I'm looking for something to film.
fair enough. Yeah. No, we'll have some fun. We'll get you dancing around. Yeah, it's a good time. So,
I have a
yeah.
question.
Yes, ma'am.
So what are your guidelines for your kids with regard to host families?
Yeah.
Because I do know in the past,
Yeah.
there's been problems with
Yeah.
team players and host families and families not wanting to
100%,
host
yeah.
again. So
Yeah.
that was quite a problem. They were always asking
Yeah.
for host families.
So my outlook on that, number one, is back in the day, even when I was kind of coming up playing, so I'm not a super old guy yet, but it was a little bit of the Wild West. I mean, honestly, like, they would come in, and pretty much when guys would get here, there was a different in focus, right? So for us, our entire focus behind the organization is player experience and community experience, right? And keeping both of those things in the forefront is very important because we have a standard protocol of how we operate, right, from a business perspective, but then also code of conduct, right? So how we do things with our guys is very important for us. One thing to understand is, when it comes to recruiting, we recruit these guys all year long, right? So it's not like everybody gets to play, and that's one thing to get there. So for us, it's very important the quality of the person over the quality of their baseball play. And that's hard at points in times to understand if you're a coach, right? If you're a coach coming into this, you care about winning and losing, right? And we hire a coaching staff to care about that, but we also care about, from the front side of it, where we are, what type of people are we talking about here? So we revamped a lot of different things with the host families. To be honest, my host family community, just in the areas that we are, it's grown every year. We very, very rarely lose someone because of a behavioral issue. Typically, if we lose somebody, it's because they have somebody moving in with them, family, certain things like that. But big changes that we had back in the day, it used to be if you were going to host a player, it was you're almost adopting that guy. And I'm not a big proponent of that personally. I think that from a principal purpose, we should be teaching these men to be young men, good young men. And if we're going to ask them to come here and play for us and hold up that code of conduct, they have to be able to understand what it is to take care of themselves, right? And if we're not doing a good job at bringing the next generation up that way, then we're going to have major issues as we continue to go down the road. So that's a big principle for us is helping them understand what it takes to take care of yourself, understanding your word, understanding what it is. If you say you're going to do something, you do it. Those types of things and principles. But for us, our host families, they're not required to cook them 3 meals a day. They're not required to pick up after them, those types of things. I mean, our guys that come in, they understand that with host families, it's a free place to stay for the summer, so you should be beyond grateful for that, number one. Number two, you're going to respect them. If you don't respect them, you'll go home. And, we have a zero tolerance policy, so it's one time. I mean, if I get one phone call, I've been doing this for, I guess we're going in almost 10 years that I've been kind of in my position doing it. I've had one kid that I've had to send home, and that was it, So, I mean, they take it relatively seriously. I do a lot of the communications, not only from the baseball side with this side, but I also do with the colleges and the recruiting side and that type of stuff. So the coaches know who I am, and they know, if we're saying we're going to do it, then that's what it is. And so we've kind of garnished that reputation, and it's a good thing. Some may seem it's a little harsh, but the reality is if I'm going to ask somebody to open their home, I'm going to take that very seriously because I asked my mom to do it, and if somebody would disrespect my mother in her home, I'd have a serious problem with that. So, and so we just operate that way, and honestly, we don't really have too many issues. I mean, we really don't, and we don't plan to have any here. So, and if there is anything, then we will swiftly handle it. So,
That's good.
yeah, yes, ma'am.
You have a business card I
Yeah,
can have?
yeah, we have a couple of them. Yeah, we plan to hang out, so if you guys have questions as well. Yeah,
I've got somebody asking for it that wants to work with you.
awesome.
also, so.
Appreciate that. Okay. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
definitely. Thank you guys.
All right, next up, item number 8, we're going to consider a resolution authorizing a special use permit for the 2302 Paddington Avenue.
Yes, Commissioners, at the October 10th City Commission meeting, Commissioners received and reviewed the recommendation from the Planning Commission regarding the application for a special use permit from the owners of 2302 Paddington Avenue. They were requesting permission to turn a primary structure into an operation of a bed and breakfast. The City Commission tabled the item until October 24th this evening to clarify the scope of the request. The property is currently zoned R1, single-family dwelling district, and the zoning would stay the same. The zoning code requires an SUP in order for operation of a bed and breakfast. However, there are no regulations on the books regarding short-term rentals like an Airbnb or a VRBO. But the city does have regulations for bed and breakfast operations. So while this item has been discussed as an SUP for both a bed and breakfast and a short-term rental, the scope of the SUP is limited specifically to operating a bed and breakfast. City staff intends on providing draft regulations pertaining to short-term rentals to the governing body at a future meeting and welcomes direction from you on that issue. So on September 11th, to recap what we talked about on October 10th, on September 11th, the Planning Commission considered the application and they approved the SUP for recommendation to the City Commission with a limit of 4 vehicles maximum, and the term of the SUP would expire on January 1 of 2025. And then on the 1st of January every year following, and the item would be renewed by city staff unless enough complaints are brought to staff, then the SUP would be brought back to the Planning Commission at that time to discuss what the issues would be. So that was approved by the Planning Commission for recommendation to you, and now you need to consider the item again, and we believe that your options are as were listed in the cover memo for this item. The first option would be to approve the request for the bed and breakfast SUP as recommended by the Planning Commission. That would include their stipulations for the number of vehicles and the timing on the SUP itself. The second option would be to approve the request for the bed and breakfast SUP with other stipulations or lesser stipulations, different stipulations than what the Planning Commission required. Or your third option would be to deny the request.
I think I just need to have clarification. I think their original July letter asks specifically for Airbnb, which typically the people that own that place are not in there. It's not like a bed and breakfast. So the bed and breakfast is typically when the owners are there and live there. So if we approve this SUP as a bed and breakfast, does that mean that it has to be conducted like a bed and breakfast?
Well, first, I think the reason that they had asked about that and the reason we're considering it as a bed and breakfast is because in the conversations that the applicant had with our staff folks that handle this item, they mentioned a bed and breakfast multiple times. And we don't have any regulations on the books for those short-term rentals, so we can't approve anything for that. But you can approve bed and breakfast. Do they have to have somebody there? Chris, what do you?
I do not believe, I'll have to double check our bed and breakfast regulations, which is what I was doing as you asked that question. I don't believe there's a requirement for them to be on site, but I'll take a reservation on that. I'm not certain. But I agree with what Suzanne's saying. We do have obviously a mechanism for you to provide an SUP for a bed and breakfast. And I think maybe there was just some confusion in referring it to both. But if it were to operate as a short-term rental or, trade name Airbnb, it would just fall under, the rest of our zoning ordinances and regulations. We do not have a comprehensive short-term rental ordinance, but that's something that we can obviously bring back to you.
And they're not here to ask?
I don't know if they are or not.
I don't think so.
I didn't think so. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
So if something happens, how does that work? Like something to the, I don't know, I can't imagine. I mean, not even thinking about that kind of business, but with an Airbnb, the people who are renting it are there for a night or two or three, whatever, and then, but the bed and breakfast, the owners are going to get up and fix breakfast and you're going to come and eat. So if something happens to the property and it's under a special use permit for bed and breakfast, is that, I guess I would think that that might be a problem, but I could be wrong.
Anytime we allow a special use permit, so you have certain things that you can do by right in certain zoning designations. There are other uses, such as here, a bed and breakfast, that in an R1, you can't do it by right. You can't just open a bed and breakfast. You have to go and request a special use permit, which is what they're doing here. Essentially, a bed and breakfast allows them to, rent out sleeping units for a fee. It allows them to provide on-site meals for compensation. I don't know that the second is necessarily a requirement, but that's how I think of a bed and breakfast as well. So they would fall under the confines of the SUP and the conditions that Suzanne referenced. I believe it's a 1-year sunset. Is that what it is? If there's any problems, then they would have to renew. And any violation of the ordinance, it could be revoked.
I mean, kudos for them to want to actually comply with the requirements of pulling the appropriate special use permit. I imagine they're probably doing it to comply with insurance requirements on their real estate property, so, I mean.
When you sign up for Airbnb, you get to put in there, they rate the people that stay there every time. And you get to put in there, like, you don't want anybody below like a 4.2 or 4.5 on a 5-point scale. And the incidence of people having trouble with Airbnb rentals are just almost zero. In fact, they've been operating it as an Airbnb for 2 or 3 years, and just realized they probably needed to clean up some paperwork. So I'm not going to have any problem at all being for approving this, and especially with the direction that, so people don't have to come for special use permits every time. I do like the idea of an ordinance that addresses this, that that they just have to operate under. And obviously, when we do that, the special provisions in the special use permit will go away because they'll be under an ordinance at that point in time, will they not?
We could style it a number of different ways,
Yeah.
but yeah, we can absolutely bring something back to you.
I like the car deal, you know, I mean,
Limitations.
that, or especially where that one's at, it's in a
Well,
circle
yeah,
drive, isn't it?
and there's not,
No, but it's on, it is on one of the main roads in and out of that neighborhood. Yeah. And it's just, it's in a bad location for more than a couple cars, so
Yeah.
that street gets pretty
Is that
crowded
across
already.
from the Halloween tent?
It is. Yeah,
If somebody does something bad, I mean, they get rated, they get scorched, you know, on, I mean, it weeds all the
Sure.
bad renters out.
And remember, they could operate as an Airbnb right now,
it is, yeah.
and they don't need any
They're not
permissions.
violating anything.
Right. They're just requesting the bed and breakfast, and Chris, I believe you're right. In our regulations, they don't have to have breakfast. It's just referred to as a bed and
Well,
breakfast.
yeah, but.
They don't have to sleep on the bed either, they can sleep on the floor.
If they start serving breakfast, let me know. I'm just around the corner. I was the one, I mean, I asked a lot of questions about this to begin with, but yeah, I'm in favor of the resolution.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because if we don't, they're gonna
Yeah.
they can
put up
do
an
it
Airbnb
anyway.
sign tomorrow morning.
Can't
Yeah.
keep saying we're business friendly if we,
So do we need a resolution
the-
number?
Yeah.
1326.
has to be. Or is it 1236?
It's G-1326.
So moved.
I'll second.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that passes.
Can I just say real quick, thanks to the city for your help on that. I know I had lots of questions, and especially Chris, I think brought a lot of clarification to it. So
No
thank you.
problem.
Okay, item number 9, we're going to consider approval of the recommended airport consultant. Suzanne.
Yes, Commissioners, every 5 to 7 years, the city goes through a quality-based selection process to choose an engineering consultant that will serve on retainer as the airport consultant. That's required by FAA. The City Commission approved an RFP I put in your packet. We sent it out in July, and then we received 3 proposals from 3 different engineering firms. And then a review committee was put together. I talked with the mayor because the mayor serves on the airport board, and myself and the airport manager, Brian Palmer, and the county administrator, Anthony Schwarzenegger, because remember, the county is our partner with the airport. The 3 of us reviewed these proposals, and we met yesterday to make a final decision, and we selected HNTB, and they have been our consultant for over 20 years out at the airport. But all of the firms are good firms, and just weighing all of the items out, we felt that HNTB was probably the best choice for us at this time. And so if you would approve of our selection, then we'll submit everything to the FAA, and we would ask you to approve that and then authorize me to be able to sign any of the necessary paperwork for us to get them on the books. They won't start doing any work until we have a specific task order for another project that comes along, but we have the selection process out of the way. It is lengthy.
I would make that motion to accept the recommendation of the committee for the approval of HNTB as our airport consultant.
I second that.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, item number 10, we're going to receive bids.
Do we need to make a friendly edit to that, direct staff to sign the necessary paperwork?
Please.
Yes. Are you
Everybody
okay
good with that? Are you good with that?
We're good with that.
Then
Yep.
Yes.
so noted.
Okay, next we're going to receive bids and staff's recommendation for the CCLIP. Suzanne.
Okay, Commissioners, this project does not want to die or move forward. We submitted for CCLIP funds through the state of Kansas to do some work to K-15, mill and overlay and some full-depth patchwork. We put the project out to bid twice. The second time was just recently. And the work that we had planned to do was on K-15 from the railroad tracks north to 11th Street, and then from 13th Street north to the city limits. All of the bids came in over the estimate. It's a little hard to see what's in the packet. So for the second time, they've come in over the estimate. The bid, the engineer's estimate was $1,237,954, and the low bid by APAC of Kansas was $1,281,000. After talking with the paving contractors, they're very busy. We knew that. We changed the schedule, trying to get them interested to be able to leave estimates the way they were. But the base work and the patching on an old state highway is difficult, hard for them to estimate, leaves them with a little bit of nervousness about it. So the contractors are bidding it high. Staff would like to increase the estimate and decrease the work area to include K-15 from the railroad tracks to 11th Street only, and then put the project back out to bid. In the cover memo, I said we would be doing this subject to the state approval. We've already talked with KDOT, and they have already approved us moving forward if you would approve it. We would plan to do construction in the same way. It would not start until late spring, and it would be phased with closure of the inside lanes first, and then we would do the outside lanes after that. If you would approve us moving forward, we would have a bid letting October 31st and try and turn this around quickly. The project is going to be the same. We're just going to eliminate the north portion. We're going to have to do something with it, and so this is our third attempt to move the project forward. We would bring back an updated bonding resolution to you. The dollar amounts would stay the same. We would just be changing the limits of construction.
Okay.
If you would approve, then we would ask you to approve the updated plans and specifications and the bid date as presented, and then approve us signing any of the updated state agreements that would be needed.
Well, I would like to move that we do all of that. Because
Also-
I'm looking at all of this, I'm thinking, you want me to read all of that? I'm willing to do so.
Nah.
I'll
You
second.
all-
Denise
I mean, are
can
y'all
get it.
good with it?
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne.
Next, we're going to discuss the hours of public access to city parks and cemeteries. Suzanne?
Yes, Commissioners, this is a new topic, well, new to be discussed here. Recently, we have had some significant problems with vandalism in city parks. Ranges from, just very graphic graffiti to removal of plumbing and destruction of equipment. You always have a little bit of that, especially through the summer months, because everybody's out of school and looking for something to do, and some get very full of mischief, if you will. But the majority of the damage that we're seeing is occurring after dark. And so in order to enforce that individuals are not in the park causing problems through the night, we would like to consider closing hours for public parks outside of special events like ball games and festivals, those kinds of things. Our cemeteries already have these in our regulations. We do have some timing in place. Basically, there's no admittance to the cemetery between sunset and sunrise. That's already in our regulations that are published. And any unauthorized entry could be prosecuted as a trespass. I did a quick poll of several other cities just off of their websites, trying to pull information and talk to a couple to just show you that there are many around us that already have closed hours, as far as, I guess is what you would call it. And it ranges in time, but what staff would suggest, based on what I'm seeing here and what our discussions have been, would be to close the parks if there was not an event going on at 11 p.m. and then look at an opening from somewhere 5 to 6 in the morning. I mentioned this to the NRC board as well at their meeting last week, And the one comment that they said was, there's a lot of people like to go and run early in the morning before work, and so maybe 5 o'clock would be better than 6 o'clock. They said, what about 4 or 4:30? And I mean, I don't know how early you want to go with that, so that would be up to your discretion. We also wanted to talk a bit about the fact that we do allow camping in Athletic Park, and typically it's bicyclers that are going cross-country. And our park staff really likes to visit with them, find out where they've come from, and talk to them the next morning when they're packing up and moving out. And we think that, that's kind of a cool thing. Not many people allow that. If we would continue to allow that, we would say that we would like for them to get a camping permit, like a day camping permit. And we would try and set something up online so it would be easy to get, have a small fee attached to it. But that way we would know who was in the park and who should be there that evening. NRC staff also has experienced similar problems after dark at the facilities that they maintain and oversee for us. So they were very much in favor of us putting some hours, open hours, if you will, on public parks. If you are interested in moving forward with this, staff would prepare a resolution for your consideration at the next commission meeting. But wanted you to have a chance to talk about it, ask questions, we'd try and answer. So that's kind of the topic.
Well, I know that I sent that information to you from the state with regard to vagrancy, and that it sounds like this could be quite helpful in curbing some of that. I know we're limited from what I read in all that information from the state. Our hands are tied a little bit in some of the things that we can do, but I know that this sounds like this would be something that could help some of that, but I just don't know where, if you're having to shoo them off after, the closing hours, where do they go? And, I don't know how you work that, but I would support that. 5 to 10 p.m.
We would say
Oh,
maybe
opening.
11.
Yeah. Yes.
I think maybe from a runner or a cyclist going through a park, I don't even, I get up 4:30 for that, but I don't know that the park needs to be open for that when you're just traversing it, rather than actually hanging out at a picnic table or something like that.
Yeah, I think the discussion was more about the bike path,
Right.
because that is a linear park.
Right.
And yeah, you're running across a park, it's no big deal, but when you're on the bike path itself, I think.
Right. So I think that needs a little bit of refining maybe and everything. My question would be, enforcement, there's not a whole lot to do for kids in this town, and hanging out at the park is kind of the thing to do in the summertime when the nights are short and days are long. So I think some of the vandalism is idle hands hanging out and doing nothing. So upping visibility would be my concern is how are we going to do that and not impact other community policing and being at the other places that we need to be. I don't want it to be an undue burden, Chief.
Mine's always.
Yeah, you're.
Well, I'll tell you, it's not really going to impact the community policing. It's going to help a little bit because they're just there. Going to work better. Am I good now? Well, if they're
In front of you, not to the side.
It's still not working.
Your magnetic personality is messing it up.
Just talk loud.
Yeah.
If they're just hanging out in the park, that's really not the issue because we can't just, if they're just hanging out, they have to have cause to go in and talk. We can go and talk to them, but to identify those people. But if they're not doing anything nefarious, they're just hanging out in their cars. We used to do that when we were kids too. And we could go up and identify our ourselves to them, make sure that they're not causing any problems, doing anything that they're not supposed to be doing. But that's a good contact for our police officers as well. So we're out there. We're looking for those that could be traversing through the parks, but what are they traversing through from? That we can now make contact with those people. What are they doing in the parks? Most of the time, anything after midnight they're usually, nothing good happens after midnight.
Okay, Dad.
Yeah. It rings true today. I was told that many years ago. But it serves a purpose for us as well. Now we can go and identify. Because if they're just not present, we'll leave them alone. We know they're there, but now they know we know they're there. And we know who's there. And could create a problem. So I think it could be a win-win for us as well. And now have our community policing stand true. So.
I guess for me, it makes sense to maybe look at 11 PM to 5 AM.
That'd be my
That's
suggestion.
where I would go, probably.
11 p.m. to 5 a.m.
I would maybe say 4, only because I'm not sure there's going to be much mischief between 4 and 5, but surprisingly, there are people that like to get up at 4 in the morning and go running. I don't know who they are because I don't hang out with those kind of people, but I don't know that there's going to be much of a difference if we do 4 or 5. I mean, and I know you can run, right? But I could see people going, well, I can't be in the parks now because it's 4:30.
Oh.
I just don't feel like, I don't feel like if we change it from 4 to 5, I mean, there's not much traffic out at 4 o'clock in the morning, is there? So I would be a fan of 4, but I think 5 is too late. People
I'm
may
a
want-
fan of 5. I was a fan of 6, but I'll be a fan of 5.
But there's no one out. There's-
You're going to find me tighter in those
Yeah,
areas.
there's no one out
I've just-
causing mischief.
I'm a
I've
fan.
just seen too many things that I didn't like, and you know, I've told you about those things, so I'm going the other way, but I'm willing to go 5 to 11.
I would say you don't have to make necessarily a final
No.
decision on the
We can leave-
ultimate hours. We can come back with the draft, but definitely a good conversation. I don't know if there's any other direction or specifics you'd like to see. Otherwise, we'd come back.
I mean, I'm not going to be in the park at 4, 5, or 6 in the morning, so.
Leave it blank or give us the option
Yeah.
to designate maybe the linear path
We
with
could-
a different time.
We could do bike path with
Right.
an earlier time.
So,
What about camping? You good with a?
yes,
like
you
a
need to have that for the
one-day camping
cyclists.
permit or 2-day camping permit?
For the bike riders.
Yeah.
Well, for anybody, yeah.
So those who are wanting to, there was a camper over there in Haven Park this morning. And did he get a camping permit? No. So what do you do about something like that? Do you stop and tell him that he has to get a camping permit?
Aren't you
mean-
supposed to camp in Walmart's parking lot?
I mean, he was sacked out on the ground, and I don't even remember what time it was. He was just enjoying his rest. So,
Without having the non-closures, that does not give me cause to go identify that person. Why are they there? Asking these questions, why are you here? What led you to the park? But if we have this park closure, now it gives my officers to go and now I can ask for their identification. I can start asking questions, why you're here, what got you here? Why are you, because were they doing something nefarious? That gives us cause to have that direct contact. Does that make sense?
So you're saying without the closures, then you have no cause to actually go up and talk to the person?
And they can tell the officers, no, I'm not gonna give you any permission. And they can stay there. We can't even shoo them away like you're wanting us to do. Because we don't want them just hanging around the parks and doing all kinds of things, because you'd be surprised at what goes on in the parks after dark. In fact, I'd invite you to come and ride along at 4 o'clock in the morning to see what's going on out there.
I'm bringing the coffee.
Because there are some things that go on out there that because that's what they do, is because they're under the cover of darkness. There's the reasons why they're out after dark.
mm-hmm.
Not necessarily because they're out there running, but
You're either running to or from something.
and generally from us.
Okay, we got enough, we can put something together and bring back. Thank you very much.
Okay, Citizens Forum, Lori Hardkey.
I will try to be brief. Lori Hartkey.
Mayor and Commissioners, I believe you are going to be interviewing some candidates for city manager soon, and I would put in a request that you require any new manager for the city to live in Newton. We get this home buyer's guide in the Harvey County Now paper, and this came in early October, and there are many houses in Sand Creek Station which are for sale, just built, brand new, I believe, and I understand they are in the city of Newton. So there shouldn't be a shortage of nice houses for a new city manager to pick from. I was wondering if perhaps the city would hire a realtor to help a person who is going to be our manager to find a place to live. Maybe even help with the moving expenses to an extent, something to get them to move here to Newton. Because if they aren't living here, they aren't going to have a dog in the fight, and they aren't going to care if our taxes are high or our water bills are high, because they don't have to pay it. So I think that that should be a requirement for our new city managers. Okay?
I think we all feel that way.
Good, good. Thank you.
Thank you,
Lori.
Lori.
You're welcome.
Next is Lynette.
I guess I just basically wanted to share my feelings and make some comments about the special use permit that was being discussed. I'm actually one of the neighbors that lives right next door to the north of the house that we're discussing. Basically, it just kind of makes us feel a little bit on edge and uncomfortable knowing that there's going to be people, probably mostly likely from out of state, coming and going and not, knowing who's going to be next door at any given time. We feel like, it may not make for a safe neighborhood. We would always have to feel like we're being on watch and having to be on guard. Not to mention the concern about, what could possibly be brought into the neighborhood or what situations could come up. There's concern over the extra traffic. We already have extra traffic in the area already, of course, because we live on the corner, have the two streets that are beside us. Basically concern over if something does happen next door, what protection would we as neighbors next door have for us and our property. And then a concern over if this would have any effect on our property taxes at all. Or another concern is at some time, if we wanted to sell our house, if this would add to that, once people find that out, maybe a potential buyer would decide, well, since that's next door, I don't necessarily want to, purchase your house. Basically, we just feel like our neighborhood is not the place for this due to the location. So, all right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, okay, shall we go around the horn, and then we're going to have an executive session, correct?
We'll actually have two.
Two. All right, Rich, why don't you start us off?
I think I've done enough talking tonight, but thanks, everybody.
Yeah, I got a chance last Thursday night, I think it was. Went out to Grace Hill Barn, and the Young Life of Newton had a dinner out there that night. And I was just impressed to see what Young Life was doing, and it was even more impressive to find out that the guy that started Young Life was from Newton. Just kind of an interesting thing. So now it's come full circle. They're back in the community. And we heard from Mr. Menega, principal at Chisholm. I'm looking at Mallory. Meninga. Oh. And he just talked about the good that Young Life is doing with the students there at Chisholm and how it's impacted that school and how it's turning it around. So I just want to give a shout out to Young Life and all the people that are involved in that in our community. There's a lot of people that are invested in that financially and just volunteer-wise. And I had a good time that evening going and being a part of that, learning about it.
Just a quick update on the city manager recruitment efforts. As you're aware, tomorrow morning, City Commission will convene at 8 o'clock to go into executive session to conduct interviews. Those interviews will also occur Thursday afternoon, convening at 3 o'clock. In addition to the City Commission group, there's also a department head group and a community representative group that'll be conducting interviews. We are setting a special call for Friday, November 3rd at 9 a.m. just to keep the process on track. There could be either some type of announcement or additional executive sessions depending, but we wanted to make sure we had a calendared item to keep this on. So just that heads up.
No, sir.
No, not this time. Thank you to all. Appreciate it.
I went to the Building Bridges event between 5 and 7 today, where our own Beth Shelton was recognized for working with Tim Swigert on setting up a new pathway out there where kids can learn to be electricians while they're going to high school out there. That continues to be such a cool place in the school system. That kids can get skills that lead to really good professions, and I want to thank Beth for working hard on stuff like that. So,
Good for you.
Mr. Mayor? Yes. I did forget. I wanted to give a shout out to Wyatt Hendrickson for winning the wrestling championship. He's over at the Air Force Academy, and it's really friggin' cool.
yeah. And today's Clint's birthday.
It is.
So it could be said, we just have all-stars all throughout our community, you know it?
There you go. There you go.
It's a good community to be in. Okay, so can somebody make the motion to go?
And
into
I will just
executive- how
note,
much
we do
time?
not anticipate any formal binding action at the conclusion of the 2 executive sessions, just for the public's
How much
benefit.
time do you think?
I think about 10 minutes, so maybe, if you want to call it 9 o'clock? Is 9 o'clock good? Yeah. No, we'll call it 9 o'clock, reconvene.
I'll move that the city commission move into executive session with Beth Shelton from the Harvey County EDC to discuss matters for financial affairs or trade secrets of a corporation, and shall resume at 9 p.m. here in commission chambers.
I second.
Okay.
I was going to say.
A motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are adjourned.